You've generally been quite bullish on India. You've said, and I quote, that India can be bigger than UK in a decade and bigger than Japan in two.
Yes, that seems. Oh, yes, absolutely. Even in market prices, of course, in so-called purchasing power parity, it is already bigger than both of them. But yes, I am fairly bullish about India. Of course, things can go wrong, but it does seem to me, and I've visited India over a period of 40 years, so I have sort of history here, yes, that the basic dynamic of the place has changed. It's perfectly obvious. Everybody's looking towards new opportunities. There's a lot of innovation, entrepreneurship. Some of it's pretty messy. There are lots of scandals. I think that will go on. But it seems to me it's sort of a bit like America 100 years ago. But the basic entrepreneurial dynamic of the country is improved. There are lots of problems with government policy too. But yes, I'm basically really quite optimistic, provided the world doesn't collapse in some way, that India is going to do very, very well.
We are 8 amateurs struggling to grasp ropes of India's economy, which is not so easy. Thank you to Millennium Ma'am's classes. We have put together our version of India, the $1 trillion story.
Gama bani ne zane ba gama ba ma 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 da ni da da ba ma ga da ni da ba ma ga da ni da ga ma ga ba ni ba ga ba ni ma ga ma ga da ga ma ga ba ni ni ba ga ba ni ba ga ba ni ba ga ba ba ni ba ni ba ni ba ga ba ga ba ga da ni da ga ba ni ba ga Gama bani ne zane ba ma gama ba ma 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 da ni da
By the turn of 20th century, India had progressed towards a free market economy. While the credit rating of India has hit by its nuclear weapons test in 1998, it has since been raised to investment levels in 2003 by S&P and Moody's. In 2003, Goldman Sachs predicted that India's GDP in current prices would overtake France and Italy by 2020, Germany, UK and Russia by 2025, and Japan by 2035, making it the third largest economy of the world, behind the US and China. India is often seen by most economies as a rising economy superpower and is believed to play a major role in the global India's GDP story. The first decade of the century was marked by high and rising growth in India. In 2000, India's share in the world's GDP was 1.5% over the decade. India contributed 3.2% of incremental GDP of the world, taking its share to 2.3% in 2010. This has taken India's rank from 13th in 2000 to 10th in 2011, tipping off Mexico, Spain, Korea and Japan. While Russia marginally moved ahead, however, India's rank in per capita income remained fairly low and unchanged at 135 over the decade. During the decade, India's GDP nearly tripled while per capita income grew 2.5 times. Growth accelerated to above 9% between fiscal year 2006 to fiscal year 2008. Growth remained resilient in the crisis of fiscal year 2009 at 6.7%. Government was led by services whose contribution increased from 49% to 57% over the decade, while industry broadly maintained its share at 27 to 28%.
8 reasons to invest in India. Size of the country. It is the 7th largest economy in the world in PPP terms. Economic growth, diversity, demographics, high savings, domestic economy, robust financial sector, quality of investment markets. Impact of FII on Indian markets. In this age of transnational capitalism, significant amounts of capital are flowing from developed world to emerging economies. Positive fundamentals combined with fast-growing markets have made India an attractive destination for foreign institutional investors. Portfolio investments brought in by FIIs have been most dynamic source of capital to emerging.
Industry accounts for 28% of the GDP and employ 14% of the total workforce. In absolute terms, India is the 12th in the world in terms of nominal factory output. The Indian industrial sector underwent significant changes as a result of the economic reforms of 1991, which moved import restrictions, brought in foreign competition, led to privatization of certain public sector industries, liberalized the FDI regime, improved infrastructure, and led to an expansion in the production of fast-moving consumer goods. India has one of the world's fastest growing automobile industries. We gave the world its cheapest car, the Tata Nano. Textiles. The non-cooperation movement of 1942 boycotted foreign-made goods. We are true Swadeshis. We cannot avoid the Made in India tag no matter where we travel. Textile manufacturing is the second largest source of employment after agriculture and accounts for 20% of manufacturing output, providing employment to over 20 million people. The transformation of the textile industry from a degrading to rapidly developing industry has become the biggest achievement of the central government. Ludhiana produces 90% of the woolens in India and is known as the Manchester of India. Tirupur has gained universal recognition as the leading source of hosiery, knitted garments, casual wear and sportswear. IT and services. Till a few years ago, IT did not have an industry status and was being dealt with the same rule as those applicable to conventional manufacturing industries. But today, the industry is being provided the required support as non-conventional service industry. India's IT service industry was born in Mumbai in 1967 with the establishment of Tata Group in partnership with the boroughs. The first software export zone, SEEPS, was set up here way back in 1973. This was the old avatar of the modern day IT park. More than 80% of the country's software exports happen to be out of SEEPS, Mumbai in the 80s. F.C. Kohli was the father of the BPO movement in India. He was instrumental in starting Tata Consultancy Services. IT industry has become a huge integral part of our day-to-day lives. As you will agree with me, the Gen X of today can live without food, but they cannot live without laptops. India gave the world a few wonderful startups. Flipkart by Binny Bansal, Naukri.com by Sanjeev Bhikchandani. Mining forms an important segment of the Indian economy, with the country producing 79 different minerals, excluding fuel and atomic resources, in 2009-10, including iron ore, manganese, mica, bauxite, bromide, limestone, asbestos, fluoride, gypsum, ochre, phosphorite, and silica sand. Agriculture. India ranks second worldwide in terms of farm output. The share of agriculture in the country's GDP constitutes about 18%. The per hectare yield of crop has grown manifold since 1950. Since the Green Revolution came about, agriculture has always been given special emphasis in our economy. Steady improvement in irrigation, technology, application of modern agricultural practices, and provision of agricultural credit and subsidies. Reforms in India and agriculture can also be attributed to private industries. ITC's E. Chopal is the pioneer of agricultural reforms by private organization. The E. Chopal model has been specifically designed to tackle the challenges posed by the unique features of the Indian agriculture, characterized by fragmented farms, weak infrastructure, and the involvement of numerous intermediaries. India is the largest producer of fruits. India accounts for 10% of the world fruit production, with first rank in the production of mangoes, papaya, and banana. India is the largest producer of milk, jute, and pulses. India is the second largest producer of rice, wheat, silk, sugarcane, and cotton. India has the world's third largest fishing industry. Power and energy. The petroleum industry in India mostly consists of public sector companies such as Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, and Indian Oil Corporation Limited. There are some major private Indian companies in the oil sector such as Reliance Industries Limited, which operates the world's largest oil refining complex. India is also rich in certain renewable sources of energy with significant future potential such as solar, wind, and biofuels. India's sugarcane thorium reserves, about 25% of the world's reserves, are expected to fuel the country's ambitious nuclear energy program in the long run. Banking and finance. The oldest bank we have all known is our grandma's cupboard. It was always our savings account as well as our current account. From our grandma's cupboard, we landed in the fast-paced world of finance and mobile banking. Ever since 1960s, banks have always been a tool for development of the Indian economy. They have also been one of the largest sources of employment in the country. RBI norms like CRR and SLR made Indian banks safe for global depositors even in the times of global financial crisis. Retail. Retail is one of the pillars of the Indian economy. It accounts for 13% of India's GDP. Retail can be divided into organized retail and unorganized retail. The behavioral pattern of the Indian demography has undergone a huge change. Consumerism has come in a huge way. The higher proportion of the middle class and the huge proportion of working women can be linked to the growth of the Indian retail industry. Amongst all retail sectors, the contribution of food and grocery remains the highest at 58% of the total retail sales during FY10.
FDI. Nokia, McDonald's, Reebok are no longer alien names. They are our next door neighbors. We all drive Honda, Hyundai or Ford. Honda and Yamaha bikes are a part and parcel of our village life. This is what FDI in India is all about. FDI has played an important role in the development of Indian economy. Because of liberal and rational policies of the Indian government, FDI has been allowed in most sectors except defense. FDI up to 100% is allowed in most sectors. The 10 sectors in which India attracts the maximum FDI is electrical equipment, service sector, telecommunication, transportation industry, fuel, chemicals, construction activities, drugs and pharma, food processing industry, housing and real estate. Impact of FII on Indian markets. In this age of transnational capitalism, significant amounts of capital are flowing from developed world to emerging economies. Positive fundamentals combined with fast-growing markets have made India an attractive destination for foreign institutional investors. Portfolio investments brought in by FIIs have been most dynamic source of capital to emerging markets like India. As the Indian equity market is growing, the trend and future prospects in foreign institutional investments have become a topic for great concern. A recent research survey by Japan Bank for International Operations showed that in the next 3 years, India will be the third most favored investment destination for Japanese investors. India has come a long way from snail mail to email, from bullock carts to motorbikes, and from barter system to credit cards. India has arrived on the global scene with a bang. Micro reforms on a sector-by-sector basis need to go on to ensure that a macroeconomic position continues to stay healthy to support India's growth aspiration of adding another $1 trillion to the economy in the next 3 years.